Hello, I'm Doodle. It's a new month, so a new Humble Choice bundle has come out for December. I thought I'd once again summarize each game and talk about my experience with trying each one out. I played each game between 30 and 60 minutes, so the full experience of each game may vary. Overcooked 2 is a sort of cooking simulator on steroids. Your job is to fulfill the orders at the top left by performing actions such as chopping veggies, sauteing fish, and more. The game is designed to be extremely hectic and fast-paced, and you're never allowed much time to relax. The stages are varied and interesting, with unique hazards to deal with in each one. For example, in this level, our task was to make salads in this hot air balloon, until we crashed into a sushi restaurant and started having to make sushi. I like this game a lot, and it's an excellent couch co-op experience. I love the choices of characters, and there's a lot of fun personality. It's just best in short bursts.
Grandma Margaret confirmed what they all feared. It was the corruption. A cruel entity spoken of only with hushed voices. An ocean of darkness that flowed from the top of Mount Morta.
Children of Morta is an RPG with some roguelike elements mixed in. You play as the Bergson family who are attempting to defend Mount Morta from an evil corruption. Gameplay is a hack-and-slash dungeon crawl in a procedurally generated dungeon. There's a ton of enemies, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed and die. Each character plays significantly differently from each other and excels at certain things. For example, the starting character John has attacks with a big arc and a shield that defends him from damage. Meanwhile, John's daughter, Linda, uses a bow for range, but loses stamina if she fires it while moving. The dungeons are where it feels most like a roguelike. You'll find special items or buffs that only affect you for that run. But as you play, you'll level up and collect gold from enemies. Leveling up lets you select permanent buffs for each character that add new abilities or improve existing ones. John can unlock a spell that damages enemies, or a passive ability where hits to his shield damage the attacker. Tying into the theme of being a family, once you level up a character enough, you will unlock a buff for the entire family. Once John levels up 5 times, all characters get an increase to their health. The gold you collect can be spent on upgrading the stats of your characters, such as their base damage. This means having an under-leveled character won't be too much of a pain since they will get the benefits of the other family members' hard work. The art style and animations are fantastic, with a lot of hand-drawn care put into it. Between each run, you have the opportunity to explore around the Bergsons' house and see some of the story and characters unfold. This game currently only has local co-op, but they did announce that online is on the way. I really enjoyed my time with this one, and I'm very much looking forward to playing more.
All 8 eyes studied the one so willing to walk into their own tomb.
One Step from Eden is an action game with roguelike and deck-building elements. It's fast-paced with a lot to keep track of. You play on the left half of the grid, and you shoot and cast spells to affect the other side. At the bottom left, you can see your spells that are available and the spells that are coming. Once you use all your spells, they take some time to recharge. Some spells work differently, such as a projectile that moves forward or only affecting the space your target reticle is on, so it's important to understand what each one does. You need to strategically dodge enemy attacks while also dishing out your own. Every time you beat an encounter, you can select a new spell to add to your deck, and like a lot of other roguelikes, you are given a map between fights with icons to show what sort of encounter is ahead, and select a path that leads to the boss. There is also some sort of mercy system for the bosses, but I admittedly was not good enough at this game to know what it does. There's many characters and outfits to unlock, with each character having different starting equipment and stats. This one is also local co-op, and while it isn't really my style, I did enjoy my time with it.
Hey, what are you doing here? This is private property. Who the devil is he?
The Beast Inside is a first-person horror game. You play as a codebreaker in the Cold War who's unraveling a mystery with the home his wife's family has gifted them. There's some interesting puzzles that you don't usually see in these kinds of games, like ciphers and hidden messages. You can pick up and examine certain objects and sometimes find secrets on them, such as hidden text or qualities. At one point, you find a journal from about 100 years ago, and you begin playing in that era, which is really cool. You switch from your house that's filled with moving boxes and unpainted walls to the house in the 1800s with candles and portraits. From what I've heard, some of the puzzles get pretty tough, but I haven't come across anything too difficult while I played it. Overall, this game seems like a pretty high-quality horror game, but the actual moment-to-moment gameplay doesn't seem to offer too much uniquely compared to other horror games.
That's my father's hat. The basement? Did he leave this as some kind of clue for me? I should look into it.
Indivisible is a 2D RPG with excellent hand-drawn animation. You play as Ajna, who can sort of absorb allies and use them in combat. Out of combat, it plays like a platformer where you have wall kicks and slides, and you have an ability that lets you climb up walls. They all stand on their own as having unique personality and style.
Ajna, I hate him. Can't even get a good fire going in here.
Were you trying to set him on fire?
Maybe a little.
Well, thanks for trying.
So, do I just...
Combat is this really interesting setup where your characters charge up their ability to act, and then you have a variety of ways to hit the enemy. The characters also have unique powers such as Dar's ability to charge his attack and Razmi's ability to slow. You can hit enemies upwards to juggle them and overlap different characters' attacks to make combos. I've heard that the later encounters are a lot more difficult and the game veers more towards being a fighting game with constant flashy combos, which makes a lot of sense considering this is the studio behind Skullgirls. Overall, this one's a gem and I recommend trying it out. Shining Resonance Refrain is a pretty standard JRPG. You play as Yuma, a boy with a dragon soul within him. It's got the classic setup of there being an evil empire trying to conquer the good kingdom. It's a lot of long explanations and cutscenes, but there is a good amount of care put into it. The combat is very similar to the Tales series, with different abilities, combos, hacking, and slashing. You can play as any character in your party, which adds some variety if you want to spice it up. The character designs are super over the top, and the story is a bit clunky, but that's to be expected with these types of games. My favorite element of this game is the instrument designs that are in nearly everything. The bow is a harp, the shield is a violin, this guy is rocking out, it's crazy, and I love it. Give this one a shot if you want a fairly sleek combat system with a sprawling story. I'll be playing more of this, and I'm excited to see more weird instrument weapons. Zwei, the Arges adventure, is an action JRPG which was originally released in 2001. It's a top-down adventure where you play as two siblings on a quest to track down 6 goddess statues stolen from their village. Being that it is a PlayStation 2 game from 2001, it has some very old-school offerings that will be nostalgic for a lot of people. I especially liked the older art style in both the character designs and the environments. The character sprites are slightly different depending on the environment and camera instead of them just being shrunken down. And while it is a bit wordy, the characters have a lot of personality, even if it is a little tropey by today's standards. In combat, you can swap between the two siblings to defeat enemies in real time. Each sibling plays slightly differently, with the brother using melee attacks and the sister using ranged weaponry. This game is pretty basic, but I enjoyed it for that. I'm not sure if I'll revisit it, but I did enjoy what I did play. Zwei, the Ilvard Insurrection is the sequel to Arges' adventure. Since it was a sequel, I played very little of it, but it's 3D and a lot more modern. It came out 7 years after the original. You play as Ragna and Alwyn. Ragna is a treasure hunter and adventurer, and Alwyn is a vampire who entered Ragna into a blood contract to save his life. In return, Ragna is helping Alwyn retake her stolen castle. The combat seems pretty upgraded compared to the first game, with there being a lot more to Ragna's attacks and weapon compared to the melee attacks in the first game. I may not finish the first Zwei game, but this one seems to have a little more meat on its bones, so I may end up playing this one a little more. Tabletop Playground is less of a game and more of a platform. It's a virtual board game platform that allows you to play board games online with friends that also have Tabletop Playground. It has some games built in, but the real meat of this game is their website where you can subscribe to games, and they'll download the Tabletop Playground to play automatically. The website is easy to navigate and the descriptions for games seem very good. It even has excellent filters for things like single-player games or around themes or contents. Overall, not much to say about this. If you like board games, you'll like this, and if you don't, you won't. Frog Detective is a very charming series that, while not especially complicated, is still a fun romp. You play as the titular frog detective, trying to solve a mystery. In the first game, you're solving the mystery of the haunted island by talking to some ghost scientists. In the sequel, you're solving the mystery of the invisible wizard. The characters all have quirky personalities, and the dialogue is fun and well written. The first one's pretty short and can be finished within an hour, and the second one is a little bit longer. The structure of the game is mostly talking to people, finding out what they want, and then talking to other people to get it. If you like weird, surreal humor, it's hard to go wrong with Frog Detective. Goopas and I played this one on Twitch and had a lot of fun voicing the characters.
Just be like the voice of reason.
Ah, you finally made it.
That's not it. Have you heard of extortion? Yes. That's great news. Is it? Detective, I would like to extort you. I don't think that's legal. I am above the law. Oh, so anyway, as I was saying, books have no place in our society.
Sure thing. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for opening my eyes to the uselessness of books.
You're very welcome.
Still There is a point-and-click adventure game. You play as Carl, a lone astronaut on a small space lighthouse, which apparently exists in the future. You need to do tasks and solve puzzles to keep the place running, and occupy yourself with things like cooking, peeing, sleeping, and having mental breakdowns. There's a lot of tasks to complete, and some are pretty tough. While I didn't get far in the game, the technical manual on Carl's desk, along with how huge the control panel section of the lighthouse is, seems to indicate the puzzles can get very complicated. Carl isn't completely alone, though. He has a sassy AI that's always telling him what to do next, and the occasional silly joke to help him keep sane, and he totally doesn't hate it. If you like point-and-click games with tough and technical puzzles that don't seem too unfair, you'll like this one. Struggling is a physics-based platformer where you play as an abomination that is trying to save his fellow experiments. In single player, you use both sticks on the controller to control each arm to crawl around or cling to surfaces, while in co-op, you'll each control one arm and need to coordinate. The game is extremely clunky in the best ways and has a lot of goofy antics and interesting puzzles. Every time you start getting used to the game, it throws a new mechanic or challenge to keep things interesting. I totally recommend playing it co-op if you can. Goopas and I played this on Twitch and had a ton of fun with it.
Why do you keep gripping?
Cause I can't! I'm just so stressed!
I can't!
No! Regenerate!
I got it! You gotta go!
Fucking shit!
Reach for it. There you go.
I don't know, I'm worried I'll get hit by acid.
No!
Oh my god! What the fuck is wrong with me other than the obvious that I'm an arm?
Path of Giants describes itself as a serene adventure puzzle game, and I would agree. There's no real stakes or danger in it, and it's more about solving these sort of puzzle box type of levels. You play as 3 explorers, and you need to swap between them and use them to help solve puzzles together. You need to use cooperation between the characters to help them move up and down the level and hit switches that only certain characters can hit. So you need to figure out the right order of operations to get everyone to the end. It's a very simple setup that works very well and is very relaxing. If you have played and enjoyed Captain Toad, you'll see a lot of overlap here in the best ways. And that's it for this month's Humble Choice. I saw a lot of people saying they didn't like this one, but I had a lot of fun with it. Most of the games were ones that I was already aware of and curious about, so I got a lot of value out of this. I didn't feel like any of these games were bad, but this bundle was a little heavy on the JRPGs, which I don't usually play. So far, my top 3 games of this month are Children of Morta, Struggling, and Frog Detective. If you're interested in getting Humble Choice for yourself, please feel free to use my referral link in the description. You can also find me on my Twitch channel, where I stream with my girlfriend a few days a week. Thanks for watching, and happy holidays!
Easy!